Have you ever felt like life pushed you so hard that you almost gave up? Imagine losing your dreams, your health, even your ability to walk, yet still finding a reason to smile, to inspire, and to live fully. This is not just a story of survival, it's a journey of courage, acceptance, and unshakable gratitude. A journey that proves real happiness is not found in perfection, but in embracing our imperfections with love. Life does not always unfold the way we imagine. Sometimes it takes a sharp turn and leaves us shattered, questioning everything we once believed in. This is the story of a young woman whose life changed in a matter of moments. Born into a traditional family, she grew up believing that obedience was the mark of a good daughter. At only 18, she agreed to marriage. Not because her heart desired it, but because her father wished it. She thought saying yes would bring peace, but deep inside, it left her searching for herself. The marriage did not bring joy, but she kept moving forward until an unexpected tragedy changed everything. One evening, while traveling with her husband, a terrible car accident occurred. He managed to escape with minor injuries, but she was trapped inside the vehicle. In seconds, her life turned upside down. Multiple bones broke, her ribs were crushed, her lungs and liver were injured, and the most devastating blow, a spinal cord injury that left her paralyzed forever. That day, she lost her ability to walk, but what she discovered later was far greater: the strength of her spirit. The accident was not just physical, it was emotional, spiritual, and mental. As she lay in the hospital for months, pain became her constant companion. Doctors delivered one heartbreaking message after another. You will not be able to walk again. You cannot hold a brush or pen again. You may never become a mother. Each word felt like a dagger cutting through her dreams. She had once imagined a life full of art, love, and family, but now she was left with nothing but silence and despair. In the stillness of her hospital room, she often asked, "Why me?" The ceiling became her sky, the walls her prison. Yet in those darkest nights, her mother whispered words that became her lifeline. "This too shall pass. God has a bigger plan for you." Though she did not understand it then, those words planted a seed of hope. Slowly, she began to realize that even brokenness could carry meaning, and that perhaps her story was not ending, it was only beginning. Healing was not easy. For 2 long years, she was confined to bed, unable to sit, unable to move freely. The world outside her window kept moving, while her own life stood still. She longed for colors, for life beyond white hospital walls and medical scrubs. One day, tired of despair, she asked her brothers to bring her colors and a canvas. Though her wrist was weak, though her hand trembled, she painted. And with every stroke, she found therapy in art. The paintings were not just pictures, they were pieces of her soul. Bright, vibrant colors spilled across the canvas, hiding the pain she felt inside. Visitors admired the beauty but could not see the silent tears behind them. Still, painting became her way of breathing again, of reminding herself that even in suffering, beauty could exist. That was the moment she understood her body may have been broken, but her spirit was unshakable. She was more than her pain. She was a storyteller, using colors instead of words. Eventually, she was able to sit in a wheelchair for the first time. That day felt like a rebirth. Looking in the mirror, she no longer saw a helpless patient. She saw a fighter. At first, fear consumed her. Could she ever live a normal life again? Would society accept her? Or would she forever be seen as imperfect? But instead of surrendering to fear, she decided to confront it. Her biggest fear was rejection, of being unloved, unwanted, incomplete. Divorce terrified her, yet when she faced it, she realized freedom was far more powerful than fear. Her second fear was motherhood. Doctors had told her it was impossible, but she found another path: adoption. When she held her baby boy for the first time, her heart knew that love was not bound by blood. It was bound by acceptance. Through him, she discovered that sometimes broken roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. But perhaps the greatest fear was facing people. For years, she avoided visitors, tired of sympathy in their eyes. She hid behind closed doors, not wanting to hear the question, "Are you okay?" She longed to be seen as strong, not fragile. Slowly, she realized the only way to break that fear was to step out into the world again. She began sharing her story, not to seek pity, but to inspire. She embraced her wheelchair, not as a symbol of limitation, but of strength. Soon, her courage caught the world's attention. She painted, she spoke, she modeled, even when people doubted her. She became a voice for those who felt unseen, reminding them that imperfections are not weaknesses. They are powerful marks of resilience. Where society expected her to stay silent, she chose to rise, proving that no tragedy is strong enough to silence the human spirit. Her journey had just begun, but already she was rewriting the meaning of strength. Life in a wheelchair was not the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter. She understood that true acceptance comes when we embrace ourselves first. Instead of creating an organization to talk about disability, she chose to appear in public, to live boldly, and to show the world that strength comes in many forms. She poured her soul into art exhibitions, where her paintings spoke louder than words. She took part in modeling campaigns, challenging stereotypes by proving beauty is not limited to walking down a runway. It's in the confidence of showing your true self. People stared, some with admiration, others with disbelief. But she smiled through it all. She believed that visibility was the first step toward breaking barriers. Each time she appeared, she was not only redefining her own life, but also giving courage to countless others who feared rejection. For her, living authentically became a movement in itself. By simply being present, she was reshaping how society viewed disability, no longer as weakness, but as a unique kind of power. Recognition followed, but it was never her goal. She was invited to host television shows, her voice reaching millions. She spoke not about pity, but about empowerment. Her words carried weight because they came from experience, not theory. She knew firsthand the sting of loss, the loneliness of despair, and the strength it took to rebuild. This authenticity made her message powerful. Opportunities came. International features, global awards, and the honor of representing women and children on a national and global stage. But behind the applause, she remained grounded. For her, the true victory was not standing on a stage. It was seeing someone in the audience wipe their tears and whisper, "If she can rise, so can I." That was the moment she lived for. Not fame, not recognition, but the spark of hope in someone else's eyes. Her life was not shaped only by her own courage, but also by the inspiration she found in others. Among them was a young boy who survived a brutal terrorist attack in his school. Shot multiple times, scarred on his face and body, he could have chosen despair. Instead, he wore his scars like medals. When people asked him about them, he proudly said, "These are my badges of honor." His determination to study and become a doctor, despite all odds, reminded her that resilience knows no age. She also drew strength from her son, who taught her patience and acceptance in the simplest ways. When he brought home his first football, he asked her to play. "Kick it, Mama," he said, placing it near her feet. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I can't." But her son smiled and replied, "That's okay. Your hands work, let's play catch instead." In that moment, she realized limitations exist only when we refuse to see new possibilities. The deepest inspiration, however, came from her mother. Through every trial, her mother stood like an unshakable pillar, never crying in front of her, never letting despair win. She reminded her daughter again and again, "This too shall pass. One day, you will understand why life chose you for this path." Her mother's faith became the anchor that held her together. Heroes, she realized, come in many forms. Some wear uniforms, some carry scars, and some are simply mothers who refuse to let their children give up. Her own journey was built on the silent prayers and unwavering strength of her mother. Every achievement, every smile, every ounce of resilience she showed the world was rooted in the foundation her mother gave her. She carried that gratitude like a shield, always remembering that no one rises alone. Through her journey, she discovered an undeniable truth: life is not meant to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion a standard society creates, but no one can truly meet. She once chased perfection, perfect daughter, perfect wife, perfect woman. But when life stripped away those illusions, she found freedom. She embraced herself as perfectly imperfect, and that was enough. She learned that real beauty lies not in flawless appearances, but in compassion, kindness, and the courage to rise after falling. Real strength is found in pain, because pain connects us to others in a way comfort never can. Each scar, each wound, each tear carried meaning. It was proof of survival. Her story was no longer about tragedy, it was about transformation. And in sharing it, she reminded everyone listening, you don't have to be perfect to be extraordinary. As she continued to grow, she realized how often people waste their lives waiting for everything to be easy. We dream of a smooth journey, forgetting that life is a test, a trial meant to shape us. When difficulties arrive, we ask, but she learned to ask, why not me? Trials, she discovered, are not punishments but opportunities to transform. When life handed her pain, she turned it into purpose. When life took away her ability to walk, she discovered her ability to inspire. The accident that crushed her bones awakened her soul. She often said, failure should be an option, but giving up should never be. Each fall gave her a reason to rise again, stronger and wiser than before. That shift in mindset became her secret weapon. She no longer ran from challenges, she embraced them. She also understood the value of pain. Most people see it as an enemy, but she began to see it as a bridge, a force that connects human hearts. Pain stripped away the masks, exposing the raw truth of life. In pain, she found empathy. In suffering, she found connection. Her own wounds made her sensitive to the wounds of others. This compassion drove her to serve. She began working for children in remote areas where lack of medical care often meant life or death. She organized medical camps, determined that poverty should not decide whether a child lived or died. She also embraced the transgender community, who had long been rejected by society. They welcomed her without judgment, because they knew what it felt like to be seen as imperfect. Together, they built a bond rooted in acceptance. To her, helping others was not charity. It was healing for them and for herself. There was a friend she often spoke of, a member of the transgender community who called herself Lightning. She would say, do not call me electricity. I am lightning, strong, unshakable, and fierce. That spirit reminded her that strength comes in many forms and appearances. She found herself inspired by people whom society overlooked, realizing that true courage does not always come with applause. Sometimes it exists quietly in those who fight battles no one sees. Through these connections, she discovered another lesson: acceptance heals. The more she embraced others in their pain, the more she accepted herself in her own. Each hug, each conversation, each shared story built a world where scars no longer meant shame but survival. Slowly, she stopped seeing herself as broken. She began to see herself as whole, carrying beauty not despite her struggles, but because of them. Everywhere she went, people asked the same question: how do you keep smiling? They could not understand how someone who had lost so much could radiate so much joy. She answered simply: gratitude. She had stopped counting the things she had lost and started cherishing the blessings she still had. A single breath, a single sunrise, the laughter of her son, each one became a gift. She often reminded others, there are people in the world who would give anything to live the life you complain about. The very breath you just took is a blessing someone else is praying for. Gratitude shifted her focus from emptiness to abundance. She learned that happiness is not about getting everything you want, it's about loving what you already have. And once you master gratitude, life begins to look like a miracle, even in hardship. She came to believe that life is not measured by how many years you live, but by how many lives you touch. Too many people, she said, live the same routine for 75 years and call it life. Real living begins when you step outside yourself and become a source of light for others. To her, this was the true meaning of success: not wealth, not fame, but the ability to inspire someone not to give up. Her message became clear: don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for life to be fair. Live now. Love yourself as you are. Be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to others. And when you fall, rise with dignity, because every setback is preparing you for something greater. In her words, live fully, love deeply, and let gratitude be the anchor of your soul. Her story was no longer about tragedy, it was about transformation. She often reflected on how different her life could have been if the accident had never happened. Perhaps she would have continued chasing society's definition of perfection, trying to be the flawless daughter, wife, and woman. But the accident stripped away those illusions and revealed her true strength. It was in her wheelchair that she found freedom. It was in her pain that she found purpose. She realized that life is not about what happens to us. It's about what we choose to do with it. Pain could have turned her bitter, but she allowed it to mold her into someone stronger. She embraced the scars as symbols of survival. She embraced the wheelchair as a throne of resilience. And in doing so, she became a living reminder that we are not defined by our circumstances, we are defined by how we rise from them. She often said that every person carries fears within them. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of rejection. But fears lose their power once you face them. Her own life was proof. Divorce, motherhood, public acceptance, each had once terrified her. But by confronting those fears head-on, she turned them into stepping stones. Instead of being chained by them, she built her freedom upon them. She taught others to write down their fears, to name them, to strip them of their power. Your fears are not bigger than you. She would say, you are bigger than them. That mindset did not erase the struggles, but made them bearable. Fear thrives in silence, but courage grows in action. By sharing her story openly, she encouraged others to do the same, reminding them that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the birthplace of strength. As she spoke around the world, her words resonated because they were real. She did not sugarcoat pain. She admitted that she cried at night, that there were days when hope felt far away. But she balanced those truths with the reminder that healing is possible. It's okay to cry, she often said. It's okay to fall. What is not okay is to stay down. Her honesty made her relatable. Audiences didn't see a perfect motivational figure. They saw a human being who struggled and still chose to rise. That choice gave them courage to rise too. She believed that when you share your story, you give others permission to share theirs. And when stories are shared, healing spreads. It was never about being admired. It was about building a community of resilience where pain united rather than divided. Still, she never denied that life on a wheelchair was hard. The physical pain, the limitations, the constant adjustments, they were real. But she refused to let them define her. Instead, she used them as reminders of her strength. Every challenge she overcame became another brick in the foundation of her resilience. When asked how she managed it all, she returned to one simple truth: acceptance. The sooner you accept yourself, the sooner the world accepts you, she said. She stopped waiting for miracles that would make her walk again. Instead, she became the miracle by walking through life with courage, even without her legs. Acceptance did not mean giving up. It meant embracing who she was fully and unapologetically. And in that acceptance, she found liberation. One of her most powerful lessons was about perspective. People often focused on what she had lost, but she focused on what remained. Her laughter, her voice, her mind, her ability to love. These were treasures no accident could take. She reminded others to stop measuring life by what was missing and start cherishing what was present. Her son, her mother, her art, her ability to inspire, these were gifts worth more than perfection. Through her story, she encouraged others to shift their lens as well. You may think your glass is half empty, she would say, but it's also half full. Which side you focus on will decide how you live. For her, gratitude was not just a word, it was a daily practice. And it transformed everything. Over time, she realized that scars carry stories that words often cannot. Her body bore marks of the accident, yet she refused to hide them. Instead, she displayed them with pride, calling them her badges of survival. They were proof that she had faced the storm and lived to tell the tale. For her, scars were not flaws but reminders that life had tested her, and she had emerged stronger. She often encouraged others to wear their own scars, whether visible or invisible, with dignity. Your scars, she said, are evidence that you fought, that you endured, and that you're still here. By embracing them, she not only freed herself from shame, but also gave others permission to stand tall in their own truth. Scars, she believed, were not endings but beginnings, each one carrying the possibility of transformation. Her journey also taught her the value of presence. Too many people rush through life, chasing success, money, and recognition while forgetting to live in the moment. She had once been like that, running after perfection. But the accident slowed her down and opened her eyes to the beauty of now. A child's laughter, the warmth of sunlight, a quiet evening with family. These simple things became her treasures. She reminded people that joy is not hidden in the distant future. It exists here, in the small moments we often ignore. Happiness does not need grand achievements. It thrives in gratitude for everyday blessings. In learning to live in the present, she discovered peace that no external success could ever give. Even with her strength, she never claimed to be invincible. She admitted there were nights filled with tears, days when doubts whispered louder than hope. But she believed balance was the key. I cry at night, she confessed, because I am human. But I smile in the day because I know my smile can heal someone else's pain. This balance made her relatable and real. She did not pretend to have all the answers, but she embodied the courage to keep moving forward. And that, she believed, was the essence of resilience, not the absence of struggle, but the determination to rise each time you fall. Her honesty broke the illusion of perfection and invited people to embrace their own imperfect journeys. Her life became a living example of a powerful truth. Happiness lies not in external success, but in inner acceptance. Money, fame, recognition, these came to her, but none defined her joy. What defined her was gratitude. Gratitude for her son's laughter, for her mother's strength, for every breath that reminded her she was alive. She often said, "Do not die before your death. Live fully. Love yourself as you are. Spread kindness, for the world needs it more than anything." These words captured her essence. She had faced pain most could not imagine, yet she transformed it into light. Her story was not about being perfect. It was about being real, and in that realness, she found freedom. Looking back, she saw her journey not as a tragedy, but as a gift. The accident had taken her legs but had given her wings. It forced her to discover strength she never knew she had, to embrace imperfections, and to live with gratitude. She no longer searched for perfection. She chose authenticity. She no longer feared the future. She chose faith. And she no longer hid her scars. She chose to wear them with pride. Her message to the world was simple yet profound: never give up. Life will test you, break you, and challenge you. But within you is a power greater than any obstacle. Real happiness is not found in wealth or fame, but in gratitude and kindness. She lived her life as proof that even in pain, joy can exist, and even in brokenness, beauty can shine. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and explore more inspiring stories on our channel. Together, let's spread courage, gratitude, and hope.